Hey there, and welcome to the Transparently Jordan podcast, where I'll be talking with a new guest each week, and we'll be covering topics in health, fitness, lifestyle, and so much more. So stick around and let's get into today's episode.
This is Radiant Voices Media.
You know, I don't care who you are, what you're doing. If you can push past that first K, it's like the first dodgy pancake when you make pancakes, right? The pan's just heating up, man. Like it's not quite there yet. So just get through that first dodgy pancake, K, and you will be fine.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode. Today's episode is going to be a very good one. We'll get into that a little bit later. Happy New Year once again. I hope you all have been crushing your goals. Keep up with those New Year resolutions if you are one of the people that creates New Year's resolutions. I myself am recording this with no hair. I cut all of my hair off. I went through a little bit of a crisis the last week and went a bit crazy, and now I'm bald or semi-bald. I got a buzz cut. I feel like every man once in their life needs to have a buzz cut, and this is my time, I guess. 30 years old. This is my buzz cut era. Today's episode, I'm going to be chatting with Dawn. Dawn is currently training to ride and run 200 days of an epic duathlon. She is doing this for charity. She is going to get into all of that later on in today's episode. It is an amazing charity, an amazing thing that she's doing. So I am super excited to chat with Dawn about her journey leading up to this, about her training, what her plan is for the bike, for the run, and just her journey with running and with cycling and everything in that regard as well. So let's get into today's episode. But thanks again for coming on and taking the time. Yeah. How have you been going today?
Yeah, really, really good.
You were saying that you went for a run already?
I did. I've just sort of done a bit of a, I guess like a partnership with Parkrun Australia.
Yeah.
So we're trying to promote heart health and the importance of getting out in the community and doing different things like that, and how that really does have a massive impact on your general well-being, I guess, health. But the real focus for me is that heart health element.
Yeah.
So I got to kick all that off this morning, and I got a 10K run in this morning, and then I've still got a ride and another run today.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's my standard Saturdays.
Yeah.
And then I back it all up tomorrow on Sundays as well.
Yep.
So,
Sunday long run sometimes. And
Yeah.
it's pretty standard for most runners, I think.
It is the old Sunday, get up, get out there. It's pretty standard for us, us endurance runners, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Well, like I was saying earlier, Dawn, I wanted to get you on here because I know you're doing something amazing and for amazing charity and all of that. So we'll definitely get into that. But
Awesome.
Maybe tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm 40 now, so it's always a weird thing when you say oh, now I'm 40. Look, I've always enjoyed endurance type sports and things like that. And, I've been in South Australia now. My husband and I have been here for 10 years now. We've just ticked over 10 years in South Australia, but I'm originally from Perth in WA. And my husband's from Tassie. So it's sort of like that in between now that we're in Adelaide, which is great. But yeah, it's basically, I'm a 40-year-old married lady. My husband and I've been together 18 years now, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
He still puts up with me. We'll see how we go after 200 days on the road together, but that's okay. That sort of happens. Big dog lover. I love dogs. But yeah, I'm pretty down to earth, I think, sort of person. I'm just everyday, Australian woman wanting to do something off the charts is the plan.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, again, like I was saying, we'll definitely talk about the 200-day run ride because that's an amazing thing that you're doing.
Yes.
But when did your running journey start, I guess? Tell us a little bit
Oh,
about that.
yeah, that's a good question. I was only thinking about this because I got asked there recently
Okay.
when the running started.
Yeah.
So my husband regularly, I think, regrets doing this, but years ago now, I think it was about 11 years ago is when I started to run. It's so weird how it started. I was, wanting to get life insurance and income support, like totally random. I was like, okay, we need to, look after our future, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. So I went and got a health test done, which you're required to do. And it came up that I was pre-diabetic.
Mm.
So I wasn't overly healthy, as you do. You go through your teens and you get into your
Yeah.
20s. I was working full time, studying full time, and I just, let that side of things go.
Right.
And my husband's like, oh, you should just get into like something like running. And I'm like, oh, I've never run before in my life. I'm previous cyclist, had done all of that sort of stuff. But the idea of running, I was like, come on. And he's like, no, no, no. He goes, I think I can get you into that. So we lived in a small suburb over in Perth, and just up the road from there was this like square grass patch. And he's like, right, I'm going to take you up there this weekend. Still remember it. Take you up there this weekend on the Sunday, and we'll try and get you just to run one section. And it would have been, I'm going to say 50 or 60 meters. I could barely run it.
Wow.
Barely run it.
Yeah.
And I was so grumpy with him for making me do that. He's like, it's like, what are you thinking? I can't be a runner. This is bullshit. And he's like, no, 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 just keep at it. Every week, just see if you can get another part of the square done. And then from there, I was pretty much hooked. So I started out light post to light post running, so I'd, be able to run between each light post, then stop. I'd walk to the next light post, and then I'd run again. And then I decided to sign up for my first half marathon because I think I was sort of like a bit of a go big or go home pretty early on. And then did the Bustleton half marathon, was my first half marathon, and that was about 10 years ago. And then, the rest was history. So I've done 18 half marathons and a full marathon now, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I just love the endurance side of things, to be honest, Jordan. So
Yeah.
that's how my running journey, and my husband every now and then just goes, why did I get you into running? So it's all really his fault,
Because especially if it's an endurance, like long distance and whatnot, and
Yeah.
especially what you're training for, it takes a lot of time out of the day. So he's
It
probably like,
does.
oh, what did
It
I?
does. Why did I get her to do this?
Yeah,
So
I know.
so he knows I've got this, I guess, a natural addictive personality. But he does regularly say, he thought I was a little bit on the interesting side and a little bit over the top when he first married me and got with me. But he didn't realize this much.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I think you need a certain type of personality,
Yes.
to be doing what you're doing, but also to be wanting to do a marathon and a half marathon and all of that kind of stuff, because running is running, there's so many different distances and things that you
Absolutely.
can do. And I think a lot of people are happy with just doing 5K or 10K. And I think whatever the distance is a great distance. But I think to, run a half marathon or run and ride 200 days, like it takes a certain type of mentality. So
Yeah.
where do you think, this drive came from yourself to be wanting to do this kind of 200-day challenge that you're doing?
That's a good question. I've always been a really, as the saying goes, go big or go home. I've always sort of been that type of personality, and I definitely set high expectations for myself. And my husband reminded me the other day when we were talking that, I worked full time, did my degree full time, built a house, and got married all at the same time.
Wow. Okay.
So I've always been one of these people that just seems to want to just do a lot and achieve a lot. And my family have always been the biggest supporters of that. So again, you blame your parents. So I'm blaming my parents here. My parents are very much, if you want to do it, it's going to take work. So how are you going to do that? And we'll back you.
Yeah.
So I think having that type of network in your background is absolutely critical. You know, when I did my studies in year 12, you know, I'm 40 now, but we're talking a few years ago now. I didn't get the marks I needed at high school, right? Basically bombed year 12. And as every, you know, 17, 18-year-old that doesn't quite achieve what they want to achieve, they just go, oh, you know, the world's going to end. But my parents were very much like, this is a no now. You're just not doing it now. So what are you going to do to set yourself up and work out what you want to do now that things aren't happening the way you wanted? So they were very much, don't throw in the towel, but what are you going to do about it? So that support has always helped me be able to achieve bigger and better things all the time, which is amazing.
Yeah, and when you have that support system, it does, it does help, I guess, the grand scheme of things. And, you know, even if you're on the low or if you're wanting to quit, just having that voice of reason sometimes is quite important. And it kind of makes and breaks, I think, a lot of the time.
Oh, yes, so much so. And that's I've got a very close relationship with my parents. My parents are young parents too, so they're only, you know, 20 odd years older than me, which has been really nice. And I think I appreciate that more now that I'm getting older, definitely than I would have done. You know, when I think when I was in my 20s and my parents were roughly my age now, I'm like, bugger having kids. But you know, you sort of shake your head a little bit and go, how did they do that? My dad and I in particular are very close, and we've done 3 big hikes, endurance hikes together. So we did Kokoda together 10 years ago, and then we did Machu Picchu. And then recently when he turned 60, we hiked Larapinta up in the Northern Territory. So my dad, I could definitely not say that they are mollycoddling type parents. It is very much, if you're not bleeding and it's not broken, suck it up and keep going. So, and even if it is, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So, you know, on Kokoda in particular, it's tough, you know, 8 days of grueling hiking through Papua New Guinea is pretty intense. Anyone that's done anything like that, it's quite life-changing. And my dad was very much, you know, this is going to hurt and we're going to have to find ways to just keep going. And having those types of people as your role models as a, you know, kid, and I still see myself as a kid when you're around your parents, really does make you sort of, you know, set those high goals for yourself. I can't help but want to just keep achieving and doing bigger and better things.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So tell us what you are planning on doing, the 200-day ride cycle.
Yeah. So the little, as we say, a little wee trot around the country. So in, I'm going to say 45 days. I really hope I get that right now. But on the 25th of February, I take off from Adelaide to run and ride 20,000 Ks over 200 days around the country. So I plan to cross every state and territory in this country. And the whole point is to promote cardiovascular disease prevention, heart health. It's all about, you know, raising that awareness and, in my case, awareness and funds for the Heart Foundation, the Royal Flying Doctor Service of Australia. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Wow, awesome. And that's quite like doing that challenge alone is quite impressive, but I think raising money and doing it for, you know, a foundation and doing it for a charity is even more commendable because, you know, a lot of people these days, I think it's all about doing it for the social media and I'm doing this run for this and this run for that and follow me. But I think to actually do it for a charity is quite important and quite good. Now tell us a little bit about how long have you been training for this and when did you first decide that you wanted to do this, I guess?
I blame my husband again.
Okay.
So when we first moved over from South Australia to Port Lincoln, I just got injured after I was training for an endurance run. I've got a feeling it was another half marathon. And I'd got a little niggle and needed to stop for a bit. So I was, you know, a little bit grumpy. So he was like, you need to get some inspiration. We need to get you a book or something. So then I picked up a book called Running Pink by Deborah D. Williams. So she ran around Australia for breast cancer awareness and fundraising. And as soon as I read that book, my husband looked at me and he goes, I'm gonna have to get a caravan, aren't I? He goes, what are we doing? Because he knew the seed was planted, and that was 10 years ago. Queen of Hearts has had a couple of iterations since then, Jordan. It's one of those things that you sort of go, well, how are we actually going to do this? And it wasn't really until 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago, I went, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, when are we going to do it? Set the date, and then let's start managing the logistics. So it's quite incredible how much logistics goes into doing something for that amount of time, crossing that many environments, that sort of, climate to road conditions to vehicle requirements to, I know way too much about solar panels and battery management systems now. So we knew that the logistics was going to take a bit, so we needed to plan it out a bit, as well as getting some really strong foundational training in. So I was, it was easy. 3 years ago this month, I just went, okay, let's knuckle down. What does this look like? Hence, I had just started with a company, and I was walking through the city, and I saw Runners One here in Adelaide training, and I really liked their merch. That was sort of what got my attention initially, was the actual merch for Runners One. And I went, that's what I'm going to need. I'm going to need a coach to help make sure that I get the foundations right, so that we do this the right way and we do the injury prevention the right way as well. So anyone that's done any endurance training knows that niggles and injuries are your biggest enemy. And I knew that it was going to take almost training hardening over a multiple years to actually be good for this.
Right.
So that's why I touched base with Riley Cox from Runners One and to get some advice, and if I could come and join the Runners One team, and then sort of blossomed from there. But the training has, the first year was great, because the first year 3 years ago was to just get comfortable with a proper training plan, get comfortable with being on my feet for prolonged periods of time. I'm not a fast runner,
Right.
but I can go for hours, and we knew that already. So if we had that element, it was just a matter of building it so that I can do it for 200 days in a row.
Right.
And then, last year was tough, as in 2023, sorry. We're at 2025 now, aren't we? 23 was tough, because it's trying to keep that momentum going, was a little bit tough. 24 got really, really quite knuckled down serious. And, the last 13 months have been very heavy training, minimum of 15, 18 hours a week. I'm up to about 25 hours a week of training at the moment. So it's quite, there's endurance training, and then there's this. That's what I'm definitely finding. This is what I'm finding.
Because endurance training, like you were saying, is one thing, and then training for this, taking multiple years, is a whole other thing.
Yes.
If you're training for a half or you're training for a marathon, I think a lot of people can get by with 6 months or less sometimes, right? Whereas this, you probably need those multiple years.
Absolutely.
But how did you keep on going? What kind of got you through? Because to start this journey 3 years ago, to plan and then train, and like you were saying, in 23 it was a hard year to keep going. How did you keep going? What was that push or that drive for you?
I think having a purpose, to be honest, Jordan, like knowing that, I needed to do this to be physically and mentally ready to take on what I'm about to take on. So, it was, you got to make sure you have the right people around you to help with that, and understand to a point as well that, you're going to have those days where you just go, I just can't be bothered, and you got to sort of suck it up. So if your purpose and your why is strong enough, it gets you going. It's when you don't, and the reasons why you are wanting to do an endurance event isn't strong enough, because you can't rely on motivation alone, and that's one thing that I've been really communicating, is that if I relied on motivation, I would not have done half of what I've done, because it's just it's motivation's driven by emotions. Our emotions are unstable at the best of times, and when you're fatigued over doing this for multiple months, you just can't rely on that. So the purpose was strong enough to help me drive that determination to get me up and training. And I'm finding it challenging, to be completely honest. Now I'm finding it challenging now that I'm only 45 days out, because it's as my husband said this morning, I'm like a cat on a hot tin roof. I can't seem to just settle at the moment. I'm just so excited to get out there, and so it's like, oh, just extra Ks now. It's all just extras in the bank now, just to help me for that 200 days.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. So what has the last year looks like for you? Give us are you training 7 days a week? Are you training 5? What does that all look like? Because to rack up, 16, 15, 16 hours a week really is quite a lot of time on top of work and all of that. So what does that week look like for you?
Yeah, for sure. So it's 6 days is the focus. So 6 days a week of training. I say that, but we're sort of up to 7. I don't count Monday as a training day because I just do a strength session only. So it's technically not well, that's how I think I've tried to sell it with the coaches sometimes. But Mondays is my off day, but it's quite can be seen as quite intense. I run, what is that, 5 days a week. So I run 5 days a week, and I do currently 3 double sessions of running a week. So, and then on top of that, I do the cycling as well. So it's so a Tuesday morning, Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday mornings I run with the Runners One team majority of the time, as much as I can, because I've got to fit in around work as well. And then, Tuesday nights it's the cycling. It's, Wednesday I'll do a run before a strength session, go and work for a day, do a second run, and then a bike ride on a Wednesday night. Thursdays is long cycle day. So I do a long cycle on a Thursday, Saturday and Sunday. Then Friday mornings is a longish run, so 12K run in the morning normally, and then Saturdays and Sundays are usually, from an hours perspective, that's where I start to bank some good hours. So most Saturdays and Sundays, minimum 6 hours of training each of those days backing up, and that's been quite important because it's about having the body bounce back to be able to then back it up again on Sunday with a longer run. So and I've been doing that for 13 months now. So you see why I just want to get out there now?
Yeah, I know, especially like when you're 45 days away, I can understand it's kind of itching to get out of there. And also I'm sure like you're doing the same thing. I shouldn't say the same thing, but you've been doing it for 13 months now. And it gets to this point where you're like, okay, I feel like I'm ready. Like you were saying, it's extra kilometers now. There's not much more, fitness or anything that you're going to get in 45 days.
No.
But over the last 13 months or even the last 3 years, what kind of bumps have you had to overcome? Were there any niggles or any injuries or any other things that you kind of had to get through?
Good question. I had we're calling them load niggles, so we don't call them injuries. So we brand them load niggles. I've definitely had a few of those. As soon as you start to put your body through those sorts of high intensity long sessions, you're gonna get something. So I've had a couple of little tweaks of the hamstring, especially lately, a couple of tweaks of the hamstrings and the calves. But got a team to manage that. The main one I've had, though, was walking out to get my bike in July last year. I tripped over and I broke my 5th metatarsal in my left foot. Not ideal. I was very, very grumpy about it. And I was down to train. My dad's actually my cycling coach. So I was down training with Dad and walked out to get the bike out of the car, went went over, busted the foot, was grumpy, sucked it up, did a very large training session on the bike that day with the busted foot, lots of hill climbing, terrible conditions because it was the middle of winter. So I had rain, hail, side winds. It was a horrendous training day. I think I was in the saddle about 5.5 hours in that with a busted foot, and we didn't know it was broken at that point. So that's been probably the toughest one, but I didn't really miss a beat. I was pretty, I'm very fortunate. I've just having a team around me at the moment. So I did, I did suck it up, probably too much because I had some commitments with work. I had to go head out to one of the remote area clinics for the Royal Flying Doctor who I work for. So I had to head up the road. So I had an 8-hour drive in a car on Monday that I had to drive, and then drive back on the Tuesday. So I was up and back to this remote clinic on the Monday, Tuesday with a busted foot and didn't realise how bad until I got up to this remote clinic and my foot was pretty swollen and not happy, and phoned a couple of friends and got a scan done the Tuesday afternoon, and sure as eggs it was busted. I'd broken it in 3 spots. But we stuck it in a moon boot and then I sat on basically an elliptical. So I did all of my run training on an elliptical for 5 weeks. So I was allowed on a treadmill after about 4 weeks, I think. I think my physio let me to get back on the treadie. But I didn't get out on the road for about 5 or 6 weeks again. But I still maintained, I did about 22 hours of training a week still with a busted foot. So I was actually quite, felt a little bit superwoman-y after that because I was just like, well, if I can do that, I'll be fine. But yeah, it was definitely, I had a big meltdown for probably a day because you just think, years and years and years, like 2.5 years at that point, I'd been planning this, Jordan. Then all of a sudden, I'm thinking, oh no, have I just completely blown all of this up by something so stupid? But I bounced back really quick. So really, touch wood, I've actually been really, really good. Really, really good for the last 3 years. But I really do put that down to having the right coaches in your corner. The right strength plan is absolutely critical. So I've got a strength coach. She manages all of that. I've got massage therapist that looks after me every week for a rub down to make sure that everything's kept, loose and ready to go. So plus my sports dietitian, making sure my food's on point. So because food's key when it comes to injury prevention as well. So, my key focus with all of this, Jordan, was purely to make sure that I'm doing this the right way and setting the right expectation and message as well. We see a lot of people that do these sorts of large scale endurance things and, they've busted this, they've broken that. And I'm just like, if I'm trying to talk about heart health and the right messaging and that, I can't be cowboy about this. I've got to do it the right way. So hence making sure you got your right team around you. And I really do credit them for how well my body is responding to all of this.
Yeah, because I was just going to say, I was thinking exactly that I think anybody doing any endurance or even an ultra or whatnot, theoretically you could do it injury-free or niggle-free if you have the right team, the right program. And I think that's a lot of where people go wrong is, as a physio, I see a lot of the time those overuse injuries, and it's just because they're not loading or they're not managing correctly. So, you having that team is quite important. I know you mentioned that you have a dietitian and you have the massage therapist, but what does specifically that injury prevention, how much time a week are you spending on that kind of stuff?
Oh, a lot. I've worked out, it was something I was sort of thinking about a little bit the other day to try and explain to people the time commitment that this is all taken. So from an injury prevention perspective, I make sure that my recovery, anything recovery related, is at least a quarter of what my training load is. So, for example, today I'll be in my, Normatec boots at least twice
Mm.
for at least an hour, hour and a half total. So it's, that just on its own, let alone, and that's on obviously a big day because that's this will be a, 7 hour day by the 7, 8 hour day by the time I finish training today. But, that plus food is absolutely critical. So I stop for refueling.
Yeah.
So today I've already eaten loads. So it's,
Yeah.
it's really, really important
Mhm.
because if you're fatigued and tired
Mm.
and, not getting the right nutrition to repair everything you're tearing, then of course you're going to get problems,
Mm.
So protein's key for me.
Yeah.
I'm hammered by that at the moment.
Yeah.
You should see the text messages and that I've had even this morning. I was a bit light on my hydration there
Okay.
last
Yeah.
Saturday. And I definitely felt rotten. By Saturday
Mm.
afternoon, I was just feeling so fatigued.
Yeah.
And yeah, I keep getting messages from my mum and dad. I love it. 40 years old,
Yeah.
still getting told off by my parents. But, this morning it's, have you drunk anything yet? Have you drunk anything yet? So I'm literally I took film of me
Yeah.
drinking water and Hydrolyte this morning just to
Yeah.
demonstrate that I'm getting
You're
that in.
getting
So
it.
the recovery element, I've work on, at least a quarter, whatever you put out, a quarter of that you need to be putting as a recovery back in. So whether that's stretching, foam rolling, getting yourself a massage
Mm.
and getting that hydration and food in you.
Yeah.
If you can make sure you're doing that,
Yeah.
again, that's, and that's the advice I was given very
Mm.
early on,
Mm.
and I feel like that has contributed quite significantly to how I'm feeling still today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nutrition's a very important thing. And
Oh,
like you were saying, I mean, I'm sure you actually probably know more than a lot of people, like especially you doing this for 3 years and
mm,
focusing on the nutrition, like the days that you don't have enough water, you don't know, like how you feel when you do versus when you don't. And
mm-hmm.
the rest of us really don't know that differentiation because we haven't done it, that much. So it's an important thing, and I think a lot of the times we often forget, or we often, oh, if I skip one day, like, is it really gonna hurt? But it can have like a domino effect, I think, sometimes. Um, let's get into the logistics now, because that's a big part of like what you had to plan, and where you need to go kind of over the 200 days. So where are you starting, and where do you plan on ending, basically?
Yeah, awesome. So I start from Adelaide. So
Okay.
we're starting for anyone in Adelaide. It's Park 10, the Uni Loop
Okay.
area.
Mhm.
There in Adelaide. So we start there and do the first 2 kilometre set for the 10 kilometres I'm doing in the morning. So first 2Ks will be around that Uni
Mhm.
Loop just to have an opportunity to farewell my Runners One family.
Yeah.
A lot of the Runners One family are continuing on with me
Yeah.
for the rest of the run up to Cooper's Ale
Okay.
House.
Mhm.
Jeps Cross is where I change over onto the bike for the first time.
Mhm.
But so I start literally at 6:30 in the morning on the 25th of Feb, and I finish at West Beach Discovery Park. So they're one of my partners
Mm.
on the 12th of September.
Wow.
So back here in Adelaide. So it's
Yeah.
a end-to-end South Australian special for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess, yeah, starting and ending, it'll be a
Yeah.
good kind of full circle moment for sure.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. What kind of are you planning, like, day to day?
Mm.
What kind of things are you planning for when it comes to waking up, going to bed, the food that you're going to, like, what do you expect a day to look like for you?
Yeah, that's a cool question. So the end of each day we have it's a team we'll have a team briefing.
Okay.
Now it's quite funny. I say a team briefing. It's my husband, my dog, and me.
Okay.
We'll have a team briefing
Yeah.
for the next day. And the idea behind that is we've got to look at, there's a lot of factors we need to bring into consideration.
Mm,
Obviously, how I'm feeling,
mm,
what's the weather doing,
mm.
because that will determine and dictate a couple of things as well. So we'll be looking at hot, cold, wind conditions, all
Right.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is there anything on the planned route? So we actually look at the stop-start locations of
Mm,
obviously because I'm doing the run, ride, run every day, there'll be changeover points that I'll need to obviously get changed out of running kit into cycling kit, bike down off vehicle, and then we go again.
Yeah.
So the day before is basically to plan for that, for that next day, and that will happen every day.
Yeah.
So it will allow for us to determine what that looks like. And a lot of that as well, to be honest, is to make sure that we use as many opportunities for media engagement and conversations as we can to spread that message, which is really important as well. Yeah. So, you know, realistically, if I look at once we start heading across the Nullarbor, it's going to be a great example. I'll need Kurt, my husband, behind me as a support vehicle for probably the majority of those days to protect me, obviously against road trains and things like that. But so it'll be an early start those days. So I'll probably get up around that 5:30 in the morning to get food in, to get changed, and then to head off. So for my first run for the day. So on average, I'll run anywhere between 10 to 15 kilometres in the morning for my first run for the day. I'll then stop, refuel. Again, it all just really does depend on how I'm feeling. We've been testing a lot of this out, to be honest, Jordan, on how much time do I think I need for a bit of recovery between the run and ride. Yeah. You know, it's not like another endurance event where you do one day of it and then that's it. Yeah. And that's the challenge here. So I might be feeling absolutely fantastic, but I've got to sustain this for 200 days. Yeah. So it's very much going to be a focus of, well, even if you're feeling good, calm down. You need to stop. What does refueling, look like for that morning? Getting the food in, and the food will be varied. So one of the things that we've worked out really quickly is I need to just have variety depending on what I feel like at the time. Okay. Anyone that does, I think, trail runs will be able to really relate to this. You get to those trail spots and you go, oh, what am I feeling right? Am I feeling like chips? Am I feeling like lollies? You just don't know what you feel like till you get there. Yeah. That's sort of how I've been feeling the last probably 6-8 weeks. It's, the plan says eat, three bags of shapes and a banana on rice cakes with peanut butter, but I'm like, I don't feel like that, but I probably feel like 3 rice cakes and banana and peanut butter at the moment. So it's absolutely fine to do that, and having those options is really important. So because I can't sit there and go, I just don't feel like that and not eat. So then I'll refuel after the run, get on the bike. The beauty about the bike, again, any triathlete will know you can get a lot of fuel in on the bike. So the focus will be a lot of fueling on the bike. Right. I'll do probably 3 hours on the bike, stop, refuel again. Okay. So again, this isn't a race. Yeah. So it's about, slow and steady, what's the saying? Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Yeah. And that is pretty much how we're rolling with this. Refuel, finish off the bike leg, refuel again, get out on that last leg of run, which will be around that 5K mark. And then, that's it for the day. So we're looking at, anywhere between 6 to 8 hours a day of load intake. So that's quite a few calories to get in. So we're looking at trying to get at least 8,500 to 10,000 calories in a day, which is really important. Which is I think it's going to be one of the bigger challenges, to be honest, Jordan. Yeah. You get out there and you just don't feel like getting all of that in. Yeah. Smoothies, Mars bar smoothies are my best friend at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was just going to ask, I guess, because you have been testing this kind of stuff and you are going to need to have a variety. What are the things that you think you're going to go to? Because I think to fit 8 to 10,000 calories, you gotta have to be strategic about it. And I'm sure you're getting some good ideas. So what are some like high caloric or some snacks that that you're going to be taking with you?
Yeah, look, the big one that I've been using a lot lately, and I think because it's warmer as well, we tend to want fluid based type stuff. But Mars bar banana protein smoothies are definitely my go-to at the moment. Okay. So I've been, just to get the calories in. So I've been putting, 2 Mars bars and 2 bananas and,
Yeah.
and that's a Saturday, Sunday
Yeah.
sort of ritual for me. And I
Yeah.
look forward to that when I'm getting
Yeah.
off the bike on a Saturday and Sunday,
Yeah.
knowing I get my Mars bar smoothie has been a
That
bit of
actually
a.
sounds quite good.
It's actually really good, and yeah, and I haven't got sick of it yet, so
Yeah.
I was pretty excited about that. I was a bit worried that I was like, oh, I'm just. I remember doing Kokoda and you get sick of certain things because
Yeah.
that's all you're having.
Yeah.
I haven't had that problem with my Mars bar smoothies, so I'm
Yeah.
quite happy about that.
Perfect.
But yeah, it's lots of just, real variety, but we're also having to be quite strategic on perishables as well, because
Yeah.
that's the other thing that we've had to obviously think about,
Mhm.
I can't rely on a lot of fresh produce in some of the areas I'll be going through.
Yeah.
I'm very, very fortunate that the dietitian, Chloe McLeod, that I've got in my corner,
Mhm.
has supported various other athletes of this level
Okay.
for these sort of prolonged endurance events. So she's got some really good tricks in her toolkit to sort of bring out
Yeah.
to keep me fueled.
Yeah.
Powerade's been a bit of a go-to
Okay.
lately. I'm a
Yeah.
bit hooked on the old Powerade.
Yeah.
That's been really good.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's food-wise, it's been hard to get the amount of carbs in. So
Right.
I'm getting a lot of carbs in through fluid-based things like
Mm.
the Morton powders and
Mm.
and stuff like that. I'm not a massive gel
Okay.
person. I
Yeah.
do struggle with gels.
Yeah.
So I just made a sort of a decision pretty early on not to play too much with those, because I know I'll look at them and just go, nah, I just can't, I
Yeah.
just don't want to get that in,
Yeah.
which means I'll end up, with a deficit, and
Mm.
we're going to have a deficit as it is. We're just
Yeah.
trying to limit how much.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you guys need to think about, like when you are in those areas where you might not have a shopping center, you might, be 3, 4, 5 a week in remote areas?
Yep.
What kind of things are you thinking about when you're thinking about, camping and food and all of that? What are the logistics for those type of trips and treks?
Yeah, pretty extensive
Yeah.
actually. So,
Yeah.
it's come down to even us. Okay, well, we know that we're going to be 3 nights off grid.
Okay. Yeah.
So what does that look like? But
Mm.
and that's why we've geared up strategically with our caravan
Right.
that
Yeah.
can run fully off grid. So
Okay.
it's a solar panel battery set up for a reason.
Yeah.
We needed to go down that path where
Yeah.
we can be completely independent. We have quite a few fridges. So I have a 75-litre fridge freezer in the van itself. We actually just talking about this the other day about, do we need to just have that as just freezer? So we have just freezer stuff in there. We've got a 45-litre in the back of the car, fridge in the car, and a 18-litre in the front of the car. So there's quite a bit of
Yeah.
fridge space.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's quite a thing to think about.
Mm.
So once we go through, when we're going through major towns and things like that, that's where we'll stock up. But it'll be perishable stuff. We've got big tubs, and we can just throw quite a bit in big tubs and store it in there.
Yeah.
It's more than any real fresh produce or anything frozen. But yeah, we've really had to think ahead on that, because we need to run multiple fridges and freezers because we are going to be off grid
Yeah.
for up to 3 nights at a time in
Right.
certain locations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the three nights is kind of the maximum. You guys are
Off
going to be
grid.
off grid.
Yeah.
Okay.
So max 3 nights off
Yeah.
grid at a time, which is 4 days of
Yeah.
travel in the scheme of things.
Mm.
But saying that as well, to Jordan, we're being 100 k's a day.
Yeah.
On average. We're not going to ever be majorly away from major towns to a point. It won't be too much of a push if we need to go and sort of, well, I say that's the royal we, that's the husband duck back to
Yeah.
town because we need stuff. But yeah, I'll definitely be excited for fresh fruit and veg as much as humanly possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the only thing I think I'm going to be missing. My bananas, man. I got to think
Yeah.
about my bananas.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of bananas pre-frozen in my freezer in the caravan so that I've got my Mars bar smoothie stuff ready to go.
Perfect. I know that looks like a good one, really. It sounds like a good one.
It is a good one. Yeah, I think I have to share that recipe.
Yeah.
I think Chloe should have,
Yeah.
painted in that or something, copyrighted that recipe.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So what kind of things are you preparing for? I guess when it comes to you don't want to think about injury and all of that, but you have to be prepared for those small
Yes.
things. So, what kind of things are you preparing for when it comes to, you being sick or you getting injured or this happening or that happening? What kind of things are you listing out and trying to plan for?
Yeah. Look, I've got, guess being a safety manager
Yeah.
background,
Yeah.
I've got this massive risk management plan already written up
Perfect. Yeah.
with what the contingencies are. Look, there's going to be things that we know about and things that we might not know about. I will have quite a bit of what we need from an injury management perspective on board with us. So my husband's got a bit of training in this. I've got a lot of training in this. So we'll be able to sort of manage me a little bit if there is something. Saying that though, again, it really is about that prevention element. So I've booked in with massage therapists weekly around the country already. So a little bit of a random, they get this random email. Hey, you don't know me, but I'm coming through on this date in July.
Yeah.
Can you book me in for a 90-minute session? So that's been a little bit of that's quite amusing.
Yeah.
Even Archie, my little dog, he's booked in for all of his
Oh,
grooms
there
around
you
the
go.
country. It's very
Perfect.
important. Very
Yeah.
important. What is exciting is being from Port Lincoln. There's a lovely lady called Erin over there. I'm so excited because I haven't seen her for a long while. But we used to call her Otto, the old torturous one. She was our massage
Yeah.
therapist over in Port Lincoln, and she's giving me my first one to look after me
Oh,
when I
wow,
go around
okay,
again.
yeah.
So I'm a little bit excited about that. But yeah, so my focus really is on that prevention element. But I have got quite a few things in the toolkit to look after me. And I've also, working for the Royal Flying Doctor, it's very helpful because I have direct contact with some pretty amazing medical professionals who will well and truly look after me especially if there's any issues with stomach or stuff like that. Yeah. We're expecting it. We can't be naive to not think that things aren't going to, it's not going to be all rainbows and lollipops for 200 days, but wish it was.
Yeah.
But it's how I then mentally prepare for that and push through is going to be quite important. But having an opportunity to be able to just pick up the phone and FaceTime with a couple of the medical team and just go, oh, look, this is happening. What do I do?
Yeah.
Especially from overall health.
Yeah.
But it's manageable.
Yeah.
I believe that, you can be as planned as possible for this stuff, Jordan, but I just don't,
Yeah.
I've done the
To an
assessment.
extent,
To an extent, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Like you were saying, things are gonna happen. You
course it
can't
is.
be naive and think, oh, nothing's gonna happen. But
Yeah.
I think at the same time, you probably don't want to be thinking about those negative things, in the back of your mind. Like,
Nah, can't be the focus.
no, exactly.
Nah.
Now let's go back to you've been training for this event. You're building up your tolerance, and you're training, hours and hours a week. How's the body been feeling? And generally, like when you first started this, I assume like things have probably improved over time. But at the same time, you get a little bit more used to it. The body adapts, and then it's hard in a different aspect, right? So how does, let's say, Sunday, how does that feel compared to like the start of the week? I know it rolls off into the next week, but how does your body generally feel week to week, day to day?
Yeah, it does depend on the week.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm finding it definitely depends on the week and, life factors that still come into this, and yeah, you have to push through challenging life events just to keep this training going.
Yeah.
So definitely this week's probably an example of a tough one for me at the moment. I've had a bit of a rough week with a dear friend of mine passing away earlier this week, who I've known for a very, very long time, but she was an elite Paralympic cyclist for Australia. So she's always been a bit of an inspo to me,
Right.
which is awesome. So
Yeah.
when I spoke to her last weekend, she kept me going on a training ride last Sunday. I was not feeling great, and I just was thinking about her, and I gave her a call, and we had a bit of a chat, and she said to me then, you're going to get days where you just feel brutal, and and it could be, and it was random because it was the easy section of a ride I found the toughest, not the hill climbing.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, is that normal?
Yeah.
Like, I'm coming towards this. Like, why am I worrying about this now?
Yeah.
And she said, yeah, that's completely normal. So when she was training for Sydney Paralympics, she said it was random because, about 6 weeks before she felt great. And then 3 weeks before she felt awful and felt like everything was going south, and then pulled out a gold medal out of the bag,
Right.
So you sort of go, well, it's okay to feel a little bit off now.
Yeah.
I tend to feel really invigorated by a Sunday night.
Okay.
I find once I've sort of ticked off the week's load, you're like, yes, I've done this, suck it up, let's go. And if I'm feeling a bit, cooked, I know last Sunday I was just feeling a bit cooked for that last run. I just did a little reel on my story on Instagram, eating a Zupa Duper, and it was just enough just to give me that whole boost of, people are in my corner here. They, I need to be genuine and authentic that this hasn't been easy. This isn't easy. But once you achieve a week's load by the Sunday night, man, it feels good. Because you're just like, because I just did,
And-
especially on this last Sunday.
Yeah.
I was like, by the time I finished last Sunday, my husband's like, far out, woman. Like,
Yeah.
I was pinging because but I'd just done, 8.5 hours of training. I think it was just over 8 hours of training load for the day. And I was just so pumped. He was trying to get me to calm down. He's like, can you just get something to eat and just calm your farm? But
down,
it was good. So Tuesdays, I always feel a little bit fatigued because you're backing up from the weekend. So that Tuesday morning run's always a bit like, whoa, what am I doing? I keep saying these days that you can't trust your first K in a run, on any training run. It always feels just rotten. I don't care who you are, what you're doing. If you can push past that first K, it's like the first dodgy pancake when you make pancakes, right? The pan's just heating up, man. Like, it's not quite there yet. So just get through that first dodgy pancake K and you will be fine. And it always works out.
Yeah.
Always feel good.
Yeah, I like that one. The pancake.
Yeah. Dodgy pancake K.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to have to copyright that because
Yeah.
it definitely is how it feels. Yeah, don't trust it.
Yeah.
You don't trust it. You don't bank it. You just get it done and then just keep going and you always come good.
Yeah.
Always come good.
Yeah. And like we talked about this earlier, it sounds like you have that support system and that's quite important and you're going to have that throughout this leg. So that'll definitely kind of carry you on. But are you a music person, a podcast person? Are you an ebook? What are you going to be doing throughout the runs, throughout the rides?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a combo-y.
Okay.
So I've really got into some podcasts lately. And I'm really on the inspiration train, right? So I'm very much whatever I can listen to around people's stories. I love that. So Run, Try, Bike over in LA, when I sort of hooked up with them and I started to really listen to their podcasts and their interviews and that, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. So, when you're climbing Norton Summit for the 5th repeat because your dad's horrible, and you're listening to someone's story and you're just going, wow, that's amazing. And all of a sudden you've just done the next climb. That's cool. And that's where I think those sorts of things are going to come in real handy. I've been banking a lot of those at the moment. So I'm purposely not listening to some stuff because I'm like, oh yeah, I reckon I'm going to need that on the Nullarbor. But yeah, I'm definitely a tunes girl as well. And I am so random, Jordan. Like I'm like a country singer type
Yeah.
tunes, that whole Yellowstone vibe, I've got that going on. And then the next minute I've got, the best dance tunes of
Yeah.
24 going. Like I'm polar opposite.
Mm.
I just like a good vibe and a good beat out, especially out running. Running, I probably listen to more music, and the bike I listen to more podcasts, and then sometimes just turn the whole lot off. So the other weekend when I was did a heap of gravel sort of technical stuff with my dad out on my gravel bike last Saturday, and I just turned the tunes up. I did 4.5 hours with nothing, just me and the open road, and so it was just more the noise of the tires going around and around on the gravel, and it was almost therapeutic. So yeah.
That I find people like that, running without anything quite inspiring, because that's not something that I could ever do. I get bored after 10 minutes of running without music or something, really. Let's talk about gear. So what are you running in? Let's maybe start with shoes. What do you
start with shoes?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like that.
because
I
that's
like
always
that.
an interesting thing.
Yeah, it is. Well, Run DNA have been absolutely amazing
Great,
and so supportive of me. And Nathan had me on the old treadmill thing to test a few different bits and pieces out. Look, my defaults are definitely Asics, Nova Blast, and Super Blast. I run quite a bit in those, and I love them. And they're sort of a bit of a default. I do use the Asics Nimbus as well. Like, they're a really nice shoe for those afternoon, fatiguey feet type thing. But I do burn through anything with a decent cushion too quickly at the moment, which is what's going to happen, obviously, when I'm out on these sort of. So we're trialing, some Brooks and some Sauconys or Sauconys, however I want to pronounce it. And I have to be honest, my play shoe is the Mizuno Neo Vista. I just love that shoe. It's just a fun shoe.
It's a cool shoe, isn't it?
It was just a cool shoe. So my last Sunday second run, ate my Zupa Duper, and then went out there in my Mizunos, just to get those last Ks in.
Yeah.
They're just fun. But yeah, look, shoes are key. From a logistics perspective, we've worked out I'm going to need about 18 pairs. I'll burn through 18 pairs over the 200 days, 18 to 20 pair, just depending on the terrain. I'm only going to max my shoes out wear-wise up to about 300 Ks, and then I'm going to change them out. So from an injury prevention perspective, I can't really afford to push them too much. I normally burn through a pair of shoes around that sort of 450, 500 Ks at the moment. So we've sort of scaled it back a bit and just gone, look, at 300 Ks, we'll change them out. So there is a shoe logistic rotation on
That's smart.
So there's quite a so it's and it's going to be funny because I'm literally going to have Monday, Wednesday, Friday like initials marked on the shoes, and then a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then Sundays I get new shoes each, as in like they haven't been worn for the week. They're my Sunday shoes. So they will be all marked up. And I've got send out points where I'm going to have the Run DNA team will be sending the next rotation of shoes to me, drop off points around the country. Again, from a logistics perspective, trying to carry 20 pairs of shoes is, we got enough gear to take. So I'm better off sort of burning through. And as I start to burn through, then the next lot are coming up. So so that's sort of how we're managing the shoes at the moment. So I'm wearing, what am I wearing now? Nova Blast at the moment. So
well, that's a good way to do it, because I think a lot of people forget the importance of shoes and the importance of footwear. The amount of people that have come in to see me and then, my shins are hurting. Okay, well, when are your shoes changed? And as soon as they change, I'm like, cool, I don't need to see you anymore. Like it's a pretty easy fix. So it's good to be quite strategic and that honed down on, I think, your footwear. What other pieces of equipment are you bringing with you, and do you know that you're going to be using on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, look, I'm going to sound a little bit OCD with my approach on this now. I'm a little bit worried about sort of voicing how we're doing this. I have a Monday to Sunday kit.
Good.
Run, ride, run kit in packing cells, the packing cells. There's literally a luggage tag on it, and it says Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I will literally have Monday to Sunday kit in each of those bags. So 2 run kits and a cycle kit already kitted up. So each day I just grab the bag that is active for that day, so that I'm not trying to find stuff. I guess it's more for my mental, efficiencies as well. You're pretty fatigued, and I've been fatigued just now, so I know what I'm like. I know what I'll be like when I'm out on the road. And again, that was a husband special where he came up with that one. So then again, when we're talking about being off grid for 3 nights, there may be times where we're expecting we won't be able to get laundry done for, maybe 3 or 4 days. So it's really important to make sure I had enough kit.
Right.
So I've literally got 14 run kits,
Right.
7 cycle kits with backup kits that'll stay in our storage. I call it the oh shit box on top of the car. I've got to come up with a different name for that, but we've basically got a storage kit on the top of the car, and that'll have any sort of spare stuff ready to go.
Yeah.
But so it's and I guess when I look at, no one's ever done this before, right? So no one's ever done a duathlon around Australia before. So you either do one or the other. So having to think about running and cycling kit has been quite a feat, the cycling, I've got dual bikes, spare wheels, multiple pairs of cycling shoes, multiple helmets, gloves, it's quite a bit of kit to actually think about, and the best way to store it, and manage it. And everything needs bloody charging. So, that was the other thing. So last night I'm sitting there hydrating. I will put that out there, hydrating appropriately. And I've got these, cable tags, and I'm literally, writing, bike lights and Garmin charger. And because I've got, I'm going to be charging like 10 different items every night just to keep everything going. So it's just a little bit insane when you think about it like that.
Yeah.
But that's the sort of to the granular level I'm having to go.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like you were saying, for people listening to remember that, cycling is a whole other thing. And, you have on your bike, okay, well, what if the chain breaks? What if this breaks? And, bikes aren't cheap, and bikes are a big thing to carry and to lug. So to have all of that to think about, like, I guess you do need to strategically have, because the last thing that you want to be doing is panicking about, oh, what am I wearing tomorrow? Or I don't have this, or this is sweaty, or this, or, it rained and it shouldn't have rained, So having all of that on the back of your mind as well is kind of like, if you can just get rid of that, that's one less stressor, and then all you need to worry about is the rest of it. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Dawn, where can people follow you? Where can people kind of, help out and just plug in everything, really? Yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm on all social media platforms under Queen of Hearts Run and Ride. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. So we are on all of those, which is great. And I say the we because I'm getting a lot of support with that as well. There's I may be the face of a lot of this, and I'm obviously the one doing it. But the team behind me is not small. So I am on every platform, Queen of Hearts Run and Ride. If in doubt, just go to dawnbeaumont.com.au. Everything is on there. All of the locations I'll be going through, events that we'll be having around the country at the time as well, will be posted on there, as well as social media. So, there's plenty of places to go and find me. And that's what I'd really like. If people can just go on and follow what's going on, would be absolutely amazing, because that's sort of what we're wanting to do. We need to get it out there and get the message out there, and that's what this is all about now.
For sure. And where can people donate on that?
Yeah,
page?
straight on to dawnbeaumont.com.au, and the links are also on Instagram and Facebook as well. But, we've got the two platforms there to donate. What's really, really important to communicate as well is that every single dollar that is donated is going straight to the Royal Flying Doctor and the Heart Foundation. I'm not taking any operating costs out of any of this. My husband and I are funding all of this and have done since day one. My
Awesome.
husband does sit there and watch the adverts for like those, beautiful European cruises and go, we could have gone on 10 of those. But that's okay. We can handle that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's every dollar. And that's the whole point of this.
Amazing.
My aim is to raise $2 million for the Heart Foundation and the Royal Flying Doctor combined. So, please, if you can, as Mum said to me the other day, if one person, every person in Australia donates, $1, we'll hit my target. So that's a
Amazing.
really cool way of putting it.
Yes, awesome. And I will put that all in the show notes, everybody. So just head there. You can click the links. Thank you so much, Dawn, for joining us and for sharing your story. I hope everybody follows you along, and I'll be following along as well. It'll be awesome, really. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate it, Jordan. This has been amazing.
All right, everybody. That is it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in and to listening. Please hit that 5-star button review on Apple Podcast or Spotify, wherever you're listening. I will talk to you all in the next episode. And yeah, have a great one.